so please keep the messages and reasonably okay. The news come through about 2.5 hours ago of what appears to have been an attack on the Crimean road and rail bridge, both of them, which goes across the Kerch Peninsula, from the Taman Peninsula to Crimea. And the time I'm doing this, it's not clear what the reason for this is. And I saw on RIA Novosti claimed around 3.5 hours ago that this was due to a fire on a tanker. So it could have been either, it wasn't made clear if it was a road or a rail tanker, but if you look at the video which has come from there, you can see that the road, where one of the spans is down and the rail part is also damaged. If that were a fire on a tanker, it seems to have been quite odd. I'm not an engineer, but I'm unable to say. I have seen in Ukraine a number of bridges which were destroyed by missile or bomb attack, and that looks more likely, in my opinion. Now, the thing is with the Crimean bridges, that it's the extreme long range of Ukrainian, the furthest it could possibly be. However, things are such that maybe it was missiles launched from an aircraft or something like that. I don't know if the Ukrainian army has those as that capacity. For some time there had been a decoy in the air which might actually come in. Now, it could also have been other things. It could have been sabotage. It could be sorry, apologies for the problems with the internet. So, in my opinion, I did a talk from Kiev in May when I argued that it was not a good idea to actually attack this bridge. Now, the bridge itself in February of 2022 was used as the main supply method to the attack that came from the Crimean Peninsula, and indeed it is large parts of southern Ukraine in the Kherson and Zaporizhia oblasts that were occupied as a result of this attack. In fact, far more land was taken from the attack from the Crimea than the attacks that were made from the other areas, from the north or from the west, from the east. So from the strategic point of view, this is a very good thing now, because as Ukrainian forces attack in the Kherson and to a certain extent in Zaporizhia oblasts, then this means that the fascists who are holding the areas in the south of Ukraine will be even worse supplied than they were before. This bridge was an absolute symbol of Putin's imperialism. The Crimea was occupied. I've got to say, no matter how evil it was a pretty brilliant plan, the way everything was done. And the bridge itself was built 4 years later. So this sort of freed the Crimean Peninsula from being having to be supplied either via Ukraine or via the sea. So it's a symbol of the occupation of large parts of Ukraine by Putin's regime. So I went through a number of Russian military bloggers and to see what they had to say about it, and the ideas there were that it was either an attack from Ukraine or indeed it was sabotage itself. Of course, it could even have been an accident. I'm not ruling that out completely, but for the bridge to come down like that, it does look to me as though a huge amount of force were used. But then again, let's not forget, in Beirut only a couple of years ago, there was that huge explosion. One thing it has to be borne in mind, of course, is that as the bridge is in use for carrying military supplies, and it is understandable that anybody on that bridge is going to feel a little bit jittery about what might happen, even though it's at the extreme range of Ukrainian missiles. And somebody's got a tanker full of fuel, and behind them is a tanker full of ammunition, and another one, and in front. You can imagine how accidents are far more likely to happen because of nerves, particularly in half-light. And I'm presuming that I don't know, but I'm presuming that the lights aren't actually on the bridge at all now, as they, for example, weren't in Ukraine. I mean, I don't know. Another thing happened as well, which I've got from Russian sources, was of an attack on a Russian base, which is in the Belgorod Oblast. And this, at the moment, it's not clear if it happened or not, but it was an attack on an aircraft, what do you call it? Airfield, military airfield, military airbase. And if that is the case as well, that shows how the war's been taken further. Of course, one has to be careful. We have to crediting things to Ukraine, because we don't know. It could be, of course, it could be the Russian patriots, Russian resistance. That we don't know. There is, of course, one should never exaggerate the extent of the resistance. I've got incredible admiration for these people who are resisting Putin, but it also needs to be pointed out, whereas now we're getting reports of 800,000 Russians who have left the country. The amount of people, for example, at protest is quite low. I think 4,500 people in total turned up protesting, half of whom were arrested, and of when we consider that 300,000 people approximately are in the process of being called up, those numbers are comparatively low. Anyway, good. So that's as much as I know about this Ukrainian, the Kerch bridge being blown up. I would like to point out that this is not the first bridge across the Kerch Strait. There was one that was built in 42-43 by German engineers, and that itself was, of course, destroyed by possibly by the very same engineers who built it. An amazing achievement to build a cableway across the Kerch Strait in wartime, which kept the German armies in the Taman Peninsula supplied for many months, and during quite heavy fighting there. So, if you've seen the film Cross of Iron, I can't remember it. Cross of Metal or something, whatever, James Coburn, about 1968 or there, or 1970 thereabouts. That's meant to be the Taman Peninsula fighting that was there. And so, anyway, right, so Bogdan says in the end it doesn't matter how they did it, only that it is done. Yeah, sure. I mean, the thing is, we don't know who it was. It might have been an accident. It could have been Russians. I mean, obviously the Russian patriots and the Ukrainian army are fighting for the same thing, fighting to get rid of the fascist regime in Russia. That's the main thing. So that's it. Now, I'd like to actually apologise to anybody who saw this is the second time I've uploaded this today, and I didn't upload it on this channel. I made a mistake and put it up on my other channel, and that was about 45 minutes, an hour ago. So so people seeing the same thing twice, because the information is actually the same. Now, one important thing I think I do need to say is relating to the supply of the armies, the Russian armies in southern Ukraine. I doubt that there are the resources in Crimea to keep them supplied. This means that all supplies will have to come via the Donetsk and Zaporizhia oblasts. As far as for example, Donetsk Oblast is concerned, only about half of it's occupied, and the Zaporizhia, it's also only part of it occupied. The town Zaporizhia has not been captured by the fascists. It's still in Ukrainian hands. So this would put all of the supplies going to the Kherson area, oblast, at risk of artillery attack from the Ukrainian side. So this really makes the chance of the Russian forces there of being annihilated much greater. Not absolutely, because of course they can still retreat in the direction of the Crimea. And to refer to the Second World War once more, and after all that's what I tend to know more about, is the following. Crimea was captured twice in the Second World War, first by the Nazi side and then by the communist side. But in both cases, it should have been defended better. And in both cases, there were serious defenses. Now, it is a relatively easy piece of territory to defend, which is more the reason why we can even think of the success of the Putin regime in capturing it. As much as I don't like the Putin regime, it was quite brilliant the way it was captured. It was evil but brilliant. So it would be quite easy to defend, even with this bridge out of action. So that I wouldn't go so far as to say that okay, Crimea is now about to be liberated. I think that is asking too much. So good. I don't normally do live broadcasts this early in the morning. I might actually yet do more on this subject. When I did my last one on this very subject, I said it wasn't worth attacking the Crimean Bridge because of the resources which would be necessary for the damage that's likely to be done. It is comparatively easy to repair a bridge. I mean, I've done it myself when I was in the army, and lots of other people in the army will have done bridges before. It's not that difficult to do a long-term repair. That's the hard. I mean, the hard engineering that goes into making bridges that's already been done. It's just a matter of repairing a span. So that is not in itself all that difficult. And when I've actually talked about other things, I'll give you another example. It's from the Second World War. It's when people have said, well, why weren't the railway lines to Auschwitz bombed? Well, okay, let's supposing that was even possible, which I very much doubt, but even, let's say, what good would it do if those railway lines themselves were repaired even before the planes returned home? That is the point. In a case like this, it's slightly different, but a missile which is extremely costly and extremely few of them, to cause a similar amount of damage is one to the value of the missile is one thing that one must consider. I myself have seen actual Russian cruise missiles. I actually witnessed it come down in a field, and think, well, okay, they've just spent between 1.5 and 10 million euros on a missile that comes down in a field. What was the point? What was the point of that? What were they? So anyway, good. I hope that this, though, is something which might not only it'll encourage Ukrainians a great deal, but I also hope it'll give Russian people encouragement that this war is now and like to come to an end. And more importantly, as far as the Russian people are concerned, that this could be the end of this Putin regime, which has stolen so much from Russia, which has taken the resources of Russia, which have ended up in other countries such as the United Kingdom, the United States, Switzerland, Cayman Islands, or whatever, that this might be the beginning of the end of Putin. Let's hope that it might be. Of course, there's lots of nasty things that could happen before then, but that in itself is something for another time. So Christopher says that Russia plays chess and Ukraine plays... I can't see what Ukraine plays. I haven't got the answer. So anyway, that's quite exciting news for today. So thanks very much for watching. And all the best from me in Szczecnica in Poland. And look at our lovely day it's promising to be today here in Poland. Thanks for watching.